It's the Security Weekly News. Welcome to the week of 8 June 2025. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the show. We've got Vixen Panda, NPM in multiplied, Roundcube, IoT, 4chan, Josh Marpet, and more on the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Imagine a world where every threat, ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, is stopped before it can even begin. ThreatLocker makes that world a reality with a zero-trust approach to cybersecurity. By giving you granular control on every executable that can happen in your environment, ThreatLocker protects your business around the clock. No more guessing, no more gaps, just rock-solid protection that keeps your operations running smoothly and your data secure. Discover how ThreatLocker's least privilege approach can safeguard your organization against known and unknown threats. Take the first step toward total peace of mind. Visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker today. All right, I'm Doug White, and it's the Security Weekly News. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment, or Josh will just keep on crying. I mean, all the time. Why do we have 1 million subscribers? Mr. Beast has 1 million subscribers. He just won't stop. I mean, so help us out here. NPM. Dun, dun, dun. I'm not as familiar with NPM because I'm not really a JavaScript person, but NPM is the main JavaScript package manager. So this is the PyPy, et cetera, of JavaScript. And they got hit with a major supply chain attack after someone compromised glue stack at React Native ARIA packages, and basically included malicious code in those packages. And the code they included is basically a remote access Trojan. Yummy. So these glue stack packages, there's like 10 of them, and they have over 1 million downloads combined. So they're obviously stuff that people use all the time. Now, the compromise started on the 6th of June at 1633 Eastern Standard Time when a new package was published to the focus package part of React Native ARIA. So since that time, 17 of the 20 glue stack packages have been compromised on NPM. Now, Akito Security discovered that this was obfuscated code that had been injected into the lib/index.js file. So something that would be in almost every JavaScript site. And Akito said that the malicious code is very, very similar to another rat that was published last month on RPM. So it's probably the same people. So basically, this rat in the previous code, they didn't have an analysis of the new one yet, but the previous code one could connect to the command and control server, and then they had a whole stack of commands up to it, including a shell that could be issued by the command and control stack. So GlueStack has since revoked the access token. Well, that's good. That was used to publish the compromised packages, and they marked all the packages as deprecated. So I guess that way, if you still want to go get them, you can. But they basically rolled it back and pointed the latest tag to an older version that did not have the rat in it. So as ever, and I'm going to reiterate this 3 times today, so it's going to be like a Christmas carol. You're going to be visited by 3 ghosts. And as ever, it's probably time to review your policy on these kinds of code addendums. Like I say, I don't know that much about JavaScript, but in Python, pretty much everyone starts with at least some kind of, collection of libraries on their basic template. I mean, you just do, right? And I'm sure JavaScript developers do the same thing. But are you sure they're all safe? Maybe they were safe last year. Are they still safe? So it's not even just a matter of, did you download something naughty? It's a matter of, did something that you use all the time suddenly get corrupted? So, version 1.1 was safe, but version 1.5 is not. Version 1.6 is safe again. So I mean, this is a lot of stuff to review to ensure that all the versions you're using are current, that there's nothing embedded, and, and then also trying to prevent people from downloading solutions to their problems, especially automated downloads of solutions to previous solutions, and Augustus de Morgan, and, on and on and on. And it just keeps rolling. Speaking of which, Solders I guess that's how you're saying it because it's spelled like solder, like soldering. Solders, maybe it's solders or misspelled soldiers. I don't know. But solders uses more than a half dozen layers of obfuscation in a convoluted multi-stage attack to spread pulsar rat in another NPM package, according to Veracode. I mean, and again, it's JavaScript. So, they said more than a half a dozen, and I'm like, okay, wait, half a dozen means what? More than half a dozen is between 7 and 11, or I guess it could be 256 because that's actually more than half a dozen. Maybe it could be a baker's dozen, which is I think 13. Oh, and there's also the baker's slightly intoxicated cousin Bill's dozen, which is sometimes 8 and other times 14, or the meth head's dozen, which is none, but you get shanked. Yeah, so we could add all these terms to the general nomenclature. I expect to see myself in the OED anytime now. But anyway, I don't know who makes up all those terms. But anyway, this one uses Japanese Unicode characters in the libjs file that looks like a bunch of garbage that's just all katakana and hiragana characters that are separated by commas. But it's actually very clever code obfuscation. So basically the way this works, I mean, it's a long article because there's so much obfuscation, but the Japanese Unicode characters serve as variables that are assigned to other characters that are embedded within strings in the code. I was like, wow, that's impressive. But then it doesn't stop there. I mean, as if that was not enough, it also uses hex encoding and array shuffling. Okay, so that's another little stage of mixing the cups and balls around. It uses binary array coding, yet another way to obfuscate. Then they use base 64 encoding. Then they use recording strings. They use reordering strings using environment variables, which is an interesting trick. They use 3DES to encrypt it. They use image steganography to embed additional codes. And they also use a dial-out phone call to a number in Seattle where a gruff voiced man answers and says a single number in German, followed by a bell ringing at a specific frequency. I might have made that part up. But wouldn't that be cool? You just call this number and some guy goes, "Foomf," and then there's this boom. And it's always different. I'm going to set that up, I swear. Just because that would be this creepy, cool thing and people would try to figure it out and go crazy. I mean, but that's just me. But anyway, that's a lot of spicy obfuscation, let me tell you. The package was published by the name Code Whiz Guru, who also published a malicious package called MediaWave/lib previously. So, wow, that's some serious obfuscation. But okay, I can't resist. All right, it's Attack NPM Tuesday. So here's another one. Another malicious NPM package that poses as a legitimate application utility actually creates a destructive backdoor endpoint that enables remote deletion of app directories, according to Socket. Now, these packages, which are called Express-API-Syn and System-Health-Sync-API, were published by an NPM user, Bot Sailor, on the 3rd of June, and they have been removed by NPM, not before a bunch of people downloaded them, though. Express API Sync had a claim associated with it that said it serves as a simple API for Express app to sync data between two databases, but it actually doesn't do anything. So, I mean, basically what it does do something, but it doesn't do what you thought. I mean, and these are just people putting up malware that sounds like a solution to your problem when you're at 3 a.m. and you're trying to get this to work and you really need a way to sync data between two databases and you start searching because nothing's working. And whoop, guess what? There's a whole API right there that I could use, or a library I could use, and you download it and put it in your software. What does this one do? It registers a malicious HTTP post endpoint called /API/this/that that silently waits for a kill command from the attacker. So if it receives a post request that contains default _123, either in the headers or even in the body, it basically then uses childprocess.exec to run, wait for it, rm-f star. Yay! So if you know, one of those people that runs everything as root and you actually running your JavaScript as root and you put this thing in there because you thought it would help and then you forgot all about it, yeah, they could come and get you anytime they want. Now, I mean, that's old school with a new school delivery. Maybe. I mean, it's kind of an old school delivery too. It's kind of old school all around. But these three stories we just did illustrate to you how dangerous it is when we add things to our code that we didn't write. I mean, Numpy, I know NumPy, I get it. I just like calling it Numpy. Leave me alone. It's more fun that way. I'm going to name my next cat Numpy. My current cats, Drippy, Stinky, and Splort, are not thrilled with this. They're like, no, we don't need Numpy. But I'm like, no, you'll love Numpy. Numpy is just as gross as all of you. But the point of all this is you're going to have to find ways to do lib review, API review, and then how to manage that over time to prevent these libs and APIs from updating with corrupted code, even after you verified it the first time, because more are coming. All right, something different. Roundcube. If I was really clever, I would have suddenly cut to me in drag saying, and now for something completely different, but I'm not that clever. We don't have a budget for such stuff. Our budget is lower than the budget of the BBC shows in the 60s, which was like, 50 pounds a week or something. Roundcube is a webmail product that probably a lot of you have heard of. It has currently around 84,000 vulnerable installations that have a critical remote code execution flaw that has a published exploit. Yeah. Remember when you took the email server down for something and the CEO called yelling that if it wasn't back up by the time he hung up, got a drink and deposited his $34 million bonus check and scanned Yachting Monthly for a new ride, your ass was going to be supporting that sewer valve network from the chicken wire cage in the subway tunnel off 34th Street? Remember that? No, me neither. But the flaw is patched as ever. But as you know, email servers are things that are very twitchy to patch, and taking them down for a reboot and a patch, if you have to do that, means, well, email gets lost, bounced, the whole company shuts down, CEO's on the phone screaming at you, and you're going, well, the longer you scream at me just adds to the amount of time it will take for me to bring this back up. But I'll be happy to sit here and let you scream at me. That's fine. Go ahead. Please keep going. But, probably my invitation to become a big shot researcher in Europe vanished that way, that kind of thing. But Roundcube versions 1.1.0 through 1.6.10 all have this bug in them. And to make it worse, shortly after the patch was released, somebody reverse engineered the patch and developed a working exploit, which is now being sold on underground forums for people who have not patched. Now, Roundcube is widely used in shared hosting, government, education, and tech, and has over 1.2 million current instances online. Shadow Server said that as of 8th of June, there were 84,925 Roundcube instances that were vulnerable, sitting out there listening. So you may just have to suck it up today and patch. One trick, call the CEO's office and tell them that they just legalized slapping people who can't afford private security. And while they're running around Times Square backhanding the homeless, you can get it done. Might work. It's amazing what appeals to some people. You should have seen what I wrote the first time. I had to rewrite that part. Yeah. All right. Now, here's something we haven't talked about in a while. We used to talk about a lot. We haven't talked about in a while. IoT, Internet of Things. It's still there. It's not going anywhere. It's still bad. And here's yet another example of IoT problems. Security researchers managed to access the live feeds of 40,000 internet connected cameras worldwide. And they said that it was just a scratch of the surface of what they could possibly do. Now, earlier, a Department of Homeland Security, or the DHS, as it's called in the United States, issued a memo that was warning about Chinese espionage campaigns being able to use these feeds. Who needs James Bond to go lockpicking and sexually harassing his way into that secure facility in Alabama when you could just tune in that nanny cam that old Gil got as a gag gift to put up on the wall of the Cube farm? Wait, it's Miss Slaptickly opening the safe, and you can see the combination on that security cam we put up to stop all the hijinks in the copy room. Is Mr. Dudley drinking from a bottle of Four Roses? Well, the U.S. had the most of these cams in the study, And they said they found 14,000 feeds streaming from the United States that showed everything from the inside of data centers, healthcare facilities, factories, you name it, hotels, gyms, construction sites, retail stores, residential areas, and your living room, Mark. Yeah, we were all watching you watch Bluey and crying while you ate an entire can of clam chowder industrial size. We were there. Yeah. I mean, and this is just the government's doing it, but that doesn't mean other people couldn't do the same thing as well and just tap into all these different feeds. Now, the Chinese made cameras, and I'm like, wait, are there other kinds of cameras for IoT? Like like Rick's cameras in New Jersey? Are they still making? Yeah, I doubt it. But the Chinese cameras were the main focus of the memo from DHS. But if you want cameras, and you probably do, put them on private VLANs. Don't let them phone home. And if you just must allow them to connect to the interweb, be sure you test them really carefully in a sandbox first and just see exactly what they're doing and receiving and what's possible, because you may need to put up some serious mitigation to keep these things from being compromised. Now, the HTTP and RTSP cameras, which were the two main types of IoT cameras, with HTTP being far and away the biggest one, were detected by the security study group by they fingerprinted them. So they sent out a special fingerprinting attempt to get back information from the cameras, and then they sent a request to the cameras once they understood what brands they were and got them to return usually either a still, or I think maybe they were able to actually get some streams out of those RTSP cameras. So it's not exactly a CCTV system hooked up to a video recorder in the basement. It's something that can be accessed on the internet. It probably was designed to be used that way. Most of them are. They're like, hey, connect us and let it connect back home, and we'll be able to store all your video for you for a very low sum. Yeah. Be careful out there. And remember, even if it's totally legit, where's that video going and who has access to it out in that cloud somewhere? I'm wondering that myself. Starting last July, a Chinese attacker targeted a lot of organizations, and one of them was a security vendor, SentinelOne. So SentinelOne, of course, got interested in this. SentinelOne, if you don't know, is an AI-powered security provider, and they basically released a very thorough blog about this attack. And they said the attackers used all kinds of different approaches to target them, including network reconnaissance and attempts to get into their networks via a third-party service provider. So Sentinel Labs, which is their threat group, revealed all those activities in a blog post yesterday. So if you want to read it, they attributed the attacks to an activity cluster they called Purple Haze, as well as a bigger collection that actually manages Purple Haze called ShadowPad. And these are both two well-known Chinese-backed attackers. And they are called Vixen Panda is one of them. I love the name. And the other one has got an unfortunate name, UNC 5174, which is like, yeah, I'm not sure, UCC 1701. But Vixen Panda has about 15 other names too, but I really like Vixen Panda the best. I might name a cat that. I mean, that'll be fun to hear them announce that at the vet, right? Vixen Panda, owner Doug. Yeah, we used to really enjoy this because we had a cat named Dr. George Rimaschitis was the cat's name. And when they announced it, it was so funny at the vet, because they would go like, Dr. George Rimaschitis, please. And everybody would look around like if some new doctor just walked in, and it was really just my cat. But anyway, I did like Vixen Panda. I mean, these things were large-scale actions with ShadowPad targeting 70+ organizations with this attack. The Purple Haze group apparently involved mostly attacks on a South Asian government entity. So they think Purple Haze is some kind of subset of ShadowPad. Now, one of the big takeaways here was that you are a target. You're not just being targeted by some 12-year-old kid in Red Hook, but you're being targeted by nation states. And they're no longer, restricting their activities to targeting, say, the federal government. They're targeting everybody because they don't know where they're going to find the big end that they need for the coming storm. And it's really getting more important that we all find, one of the things about this article is that we need to find ways to inform and distribute all this information effectively before they become widespread. It's a very extensive story if you're interested. Vixen Panda. Come here, Vixen Panda. Get over here. What? Oh, what did you just do? Yeah. Okay. 4chan. Yay. Remember when you first went to 4chan and it was kind of cool for like a week? And then, and then all of a sudden, about a week later, you kind of realized it was not just icky, but it was like, oh my God, delete, delete, delete. Yeah, well, 4chan is being investigated by the UK communications regulator over failure to comply with their new online safety rules. Now, this group is called Ofcom, and they said that they have received complaints over potential illegal contents on the website and that 4chan has not responded to any of their authorized requests for information. Now, under the Online Safety Act in the UK, online services must assess the risk for UK users encountering illegal content and activity on their platforms and take steps to protect them from it. Huh. Now, Ofcom is also investigating porn provider First Time Videos. Imagine them being something awful. And they said, what were they investigating it for? Age verification check violations. Imagine that. And 7 file sharing services were being investigated over potential child sexual abuse material. I mean, I don't really know how this works. I mean, I'm absolutely opposed to all these things above. And I absolutely agree that it would be great if we could pass these rules, but I don't know how it works. It's not even clear who owns 4chan at this point. Chris Poole started it, but then sold it to a Japanese guy that was affiliated with something called the Good Smile Company in 2015. Now, the company is still registered in Delaware in the United States. So what if the UK calls my Delaware registered corporation and says I have to follow some law they passed? And I go, don't bother returning their calls. I mean, this has been a long-standing debate in tech about jurisdiction and what they call transborder data flows and international law. I mean, what if the company's registered in the US, like this one, or it's in Yemen, or it's in Denmark? I mean, can they actually enforce these things? I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, 4chan is infamous for trolls, misogyny, racist screeds, anything awful, it's on 4chan. So, if the UK calls you at 4chan and you go, hello, 4chan, how can we help you? And they go, you have to comply with these standards we passed. I mean, do we go, oh my God, that's horrible. Let me get right on that. Or is it more like, you have reached the office of the 4chan. Our mailbox is full. We have 999 messages. Thank you for your call. I mean, I'm going to call it the Wolfman Jack conundrum. Now, if you don't know about this, and I don't actually know about it either, but Wolfman Jack was a pirate radio station in the 1950s. And by pirate, it means they were broadcasting without a license from the FCC. Oh, no. And, the FCC back then was really worried about, what if they're commies? Oh, no, what if that rock and roll music's going to warp everybody's brain? But to be honest, well, my total knowledge of the 1950s comes from American Graffiti and Back to the Future, so it might be a little bit off. But the point remains, if they block 4chan in England, won't people will just get VPNs and get to it anyway to publish their troll content? I mean, I don't know. It is a conundrum, a Wolfman Jack conundrum. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of rogue underground CISOs and radio broadcasters running amok, Josh is not one of them. But please welcome Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
Look, I run amok on a regular basis, okay?
Oh, yeah, I know.
But not underground. Let's be clear. I do it all above ground.
You're right out there in the public square. I've seen it. It's shocking.
I have my amok license, okay? No problem, And it's
that whole thing with the thong and the inflatable pool toys. Yeah, it was, man.
We don't talk about the high heels, okay, with fish in them. But anyway.
I thought the high heels worked for you, though.
Oh, thank you. So it's dear God. So anyway, I do have a great article today, and it's about vibe coding, which is the coolest, most groovy thing that's going on these days. And that word groovy was just specifically for Dr. Doug because he's old, even older than me, I think. And, he's talking about the 1950s, which he has personal knowledge of. Don't let him lie to you. All right. Dr. Doug was around in the 50s. As a matter of fact, he was around in the 1850s, the 1750s, even the 1350s. He's so old that rocks were soft and dirt was young. So anyway.
I'm the original portrait of Dorian Gray.
Damn straight. All right. So let's talk about vibe coding. Vibe coding's sexy. Vibe coding is awesome. Microsoft, I believe it is, was admitting that 30% or more of their new code is from vibe coding. Okay, could be Google, I forget. But the point is that it is a massive leap forward in how programmers are building new systems. They are using vibe coding. Now, what's vibe coding, Josh, besides a groovy word? It means using an agentic AI or AI system to help you with your code, whether that's GitHub Copilot, whether that's Cursor AI with custom built, whatever. You're using an AI to help you write code. Now, I use AI every freaking day. Okay. I don't write code. The last time I wrote code was Visual Basic 4. So you can see how old I am as well. But that was prior to .NET, by the way, just to be clear. But the point here is that when you use an AI system or an LLM system to write code, it's obviously going to be incredibly high quality code that works the first time, has every cybersecurity issue thought of and built in, no SQL injection, no cross-site scripting, no cross-site request forgery. It's totally hack proof, right? No, no. Just like Augustus de Morgan and his money ability to handle money, it just doesn't exist. Okay. So let's be clear on this. Agentic AI can write some interesting code and it's getting better at writing code. That's cool. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. That's neat. That's interesting. That's fun. Putting lots of coders out of work. But hey, whatever. It is, however, the worst thing for security in a very long time. Why? Because it doesn't know how not to write SQL injection. It doesn't know how not to write cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, doesn't understand segregating the data and the code from each other. It doesn't understand these things. And so it doesn't write code that includes those things. So you have developers that we've spent how much money on static testing, SAST, SAST, so that we can understand where they're not doing so well and we can train them. Okay. And if we train them in don't write SQL injection, don't write this, don't write that, we can actually get them to understand how not to do things or how to do things properly and how not to do the bad things. Unfortunately, you can't train AI the same way. You can train AI, but they're really working on getting it better at writing code, not working on getting better at writing better code. There's a significant difference between the two. And that's the same kind of difference as when we used to say, up until not that long ago, we don't pay developers to write secure code. We pay developers to write code that's done now. Okay. We pay them to write fast code. So we've got a big problem. Our problem is that our agentic AI platforms and systems are not going to write the same quality of code that we expect from the developers that we've been paying fairly good money to for the past 20 or 30 or 40 years. If it's not going to write the quality of code that we expect, should we be paying the same amount of money? Should we be expecting to pay more money to quality control and quality assurance? Should we be expecting to pay more money for more LLMs to do peer review, looking and train LLMs up in how to write secure code, how to detect insecure code, things like that? I don't know. I don't know which is going to be the strategy that companies are going to use. But I do know that with the rise of attacks on everybody, just as Dr. Doug said, not just on enterprise, not just on government, not just on nation state, but on everybody, we better have the best, most secure code we possibly can get in order to keep business rolling. If you want that, AI code is fine, so long as you have a top level programmer, coder, looking it over and making sure it's done properly. This is the ultimate iteration of, hey, I've got a demo so we can check that the process works. Great, put it in production now. That might be a problem, boss, that I've ever seen. We don't want to do things and rush these systems. We don't want to make it a problem unless and until we've got good peer review, unless and until we've got solid systems, processes, and workflow to make certain that this code is actually that quality. Make sense? Thank you. Dr. Doug, you're up.
All right. Thank you, Josh. I love vibe coding is very helpful. I agree with all the threats, and I've been using it a lot for dev coding to build actually things I wanted to be insecure. And I found it to be quite effective for that because I was building an IDS lab and I wanted, there to be everything to be as wide. I mean, it's a dev lab, so it's not exposed, but it's definitely got problems. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get in big trouble fast. I assure you, just from my own experience. But thank you, Josh. Qubits, schmubits. IBM has released a plan for building a new system that would effectively provide error-corrected quantum calculations that would be utterly impossible to model using classical methods, according to their statement. The new project is called Starling, and it's expected to perform 100 million operations without error on a collection of 200 logical qubits. And they claim it will be available by 2029. I mean, that's their plan right now. Now, this new approach. It moves away from this classic quantum problem of how many error-corrected qubits can you create, and they've moved it to a modular approach. So they're basically, it's like, it sounded like, and I'm not an expert on this, but it sounded like a distributing computing problem where what if instead of you need just, and I'm just picking a number at random, you need 800 qubits to be effective, but you can't get that many error corrected qubits. So what if you could create 4 200 qubit stations that would actually be effective, that were error corrected? So they had to figure out a way to connect all those things up and let them talk to each other. And it was all very tiny. But I mean, the way people have been looking at this with just gross qubits rather than by modularizing each error corrected unit makes this a rather interesting piece of information that IBM's released. I mean, this could solve the problem of getting enough error corrected qubits to turn this thing loose on all of us, right? And suddenly we'll have quantum chaos. But I mean, with this, they claim they provided a lot of details in this announcement. They may be able to break this error corrected problem into small units and let them all work together so that instead of one monster set of qubits, they have a whole bunch of smaller modular units that actually work. So they already announced that the processor Loon is coming out this year. And another processor called Heron is on the near-term horizon that are all quantum solutions. So I guess you'd be buying a whole bunch of these things instead of just one, but hey, why not? It's a very interesting article with a lot of details if you're interested in such things and you want to read more about the exactly how this works, because they pretty much started explaining a lot of it. Well, I'll be live at the International Internal Auditors meeting in Mexico City on Friday, so I won't be here, but Aaron will be here to keep you entertained, so be sure and tune in. And if you're at the meeting in Mexico City, be sure and say hi, and we can chat, or you can buy me a drink, or whatever. But I'll see you next week on the Security Weekly News.